Alright, we got this 2001 EZGO TXT. We have a crank, no start. Oh. Oh, there we go. Huh. The complaint was a cart stopped running while they were driving it. So we have to find out why it did what it did. Now that it's actually starting and running, it wasn't doing that earlier when I picked it up. So, okay, so I drove it around for about 15 minutes and I was able to replicate the problem. So it is cranking, but now it is failing to start. So let's get the seat off, and now that we got to deal with this thing while it's red hot. It's always fun. The first thing I want to check to see is if we have spark, or if we lost spark. Because typically this is an indicator that the ignition system is failing. There's a BPR4ES that I use specifically for this test. I don't know if you can see. See if I can get you guys in on this here. Make it dark. You see how spark fades. It should be nice and bright. So we have a failing ignition coil. Just to confirm that this is our problem, we're going to hook up this one, which I know works. It's not a brand new one, it's just it's another one that I have. I keep one of these in stock specifically to do this test. It's not really going to be grounded very well, but let's see if we can get spark out of it. Okay, so we have a weak spark from this as well. Let me see if I can... I know you guys probably aren't going to be able to really see this too well, but see if I can get it to hang still here. Okay, so we may have a bad CDI box. So maybe the ignition coil is good. So now what we got to do is we have to hook this back up, and we're going to have to replace the CDI box. I don't have any, so I'm going to have to order one. I don't have one of these in stock, so I am going to have to order one. I typically like to replace the ignition coil and CDI box at the same time, so that way it's all new. So I'll inform the customer, order some parts, and we'll go from there. Just spoke with the customer about this issue. He said go ahead and do it, so we're going to replace ignition coil and the CDI box, or igniter, whatever you want to call it. That way we know it's a completely new ignition system, and that will solve the issue. I've run into this before, but it's not all that common on these newer carts. The older ones are notorious for it, so that's the issue. Okay, parts came in. We're going to get the ignition system changed out first. We're going to start with the CDI box. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing here. I am gonna good measure, disconnect the cart ground. You can see what EZGO does is, or at least what they used to do, is they would use ring to spade terminal connections to hook all this stuff up. Basically all the grounds would go here. Which worked. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing it this way. Just have to remember to hook them all up. There's 4 of them on here. There's the solenoid ground, voltage regulator ground, main circuit ground, basically for the ignition system, and the ground for the CDI box. And this is why I hate ratchets with round handles. Can't get them in here to, can't hold them at obscure angles without slipping and rotating and dropping them all the time. Okay, there's the bottom, or the top rather. We're going to move this wire here. It's for the light harness, the light kit. Be a little tricky sometimes to get access to. As I cram all this shit in here. Okay, and then we'll just do one wire at a time, so there's no. Let's see, here's the new one. Okay, so we got the new one here. You can see we got some wires that go to connectors and ring terminals, and there's a 4-pin connector here. So what I'm going to do is attempt to push this down and out of the way. Unhook this 4-pin. That will help it to be a little bit more flexible. And see, this ring terminal goes to the positive on the solenoid, as does this orange. And that's one thing I never understood. The way this is wired, this goes to the positive side of the terminal, or the solenoid, as does the orange, and they both connect in the same location. Yet they have 2 different connections, so instead of like coming out of here and daisy chaining it like this, they have 2 separate terminals on it, which is stupid. So one thing I complain about, the biggest thing I complain about, is stupid wiring connections like this for no reason. If there is a reason, somebody correct me, but I don't think so. There's the orange. Orange goes on there. Orange, white, technically. It's got a white stripe on it. I don't like messing with those. So here's the Here's the black. It uses one of these spade to ring terminal type of connectors, which does save a lot. So I got to hook that up to the ground. We're going to do the top side first. Make sure it's smooth. Then you put the shouldered nut on. Just get that to touch. And I'll take the lower one. This is going to be a bit of an acrobatic event here. Because, you know, they just cram everything so tightly in these things. Now I can tighten them up, and don't go too tight because you will crack the plastic. That's that. Now let's get the ignition coil changed. Spark plug. Take that spark plug. Take this whole bracket off because it's missing the airbox bolts right here. This is definitely doable this way, but the other way would be so much faster. Then this whole bracket will come right out. You'd also have to take off these two bolts that hold the airbox to the side here, but this one does not have those installed. There's also a ground wire down there too you got to reconnect. There, okay. So don't lose that bolt. Don't forget to hook that ground back up. Here's the hardware bag, new bolts and spacers. Here they use nuts and bolts instead of screws and bolts, or screws and nuts. See, it comes with new spark plug wires. And it's sealed. So you have bolt, bolt, spacer, spacer, curve goes in. Remember, these are the holes that take the bolts for the airbox supports. Okay, bracket, washer, I wonder if these are going to be too long. They might just be too long. They may have to cut them off. The other thing that kind of irks me is these aftermarket companies making these parts don't even really make it close. They just pick something off the shelf and hope it works. But these are definitely These are definitely too long, so we're probably going to have to cut these because they're going to eat right into the housing. Yep, see? So we're going to have to cut them back a little bit, which is annoying. The bolt head is the same size as the original's equipment, so that's a good thing. Just get them tightened down as best you can before install them on here. Okay. Now, there we go. So now our clearances are good. We'll hook up our plugs, and these have a very positive connection too, which is nice. Now I'll take this. Okay, now we can reinstall our bolt down here, our 10mm. Ground is on. Probably get my, no, too tight to get my fingers in there. Okay, moment of truth. Key on. These wires don't matter, so just put them on. There we go. Take that off. Oh, don't forget to hook up your ground wire for the battery. Alright, let's see if we even have spark. Yeah, we got a nice good spark. She don't want to start and run on her own. It does have spark. So let's get the air box off. 10mm all the way around. So you get the air box off, and then you're left with, you can see down in here, the carburetor. Get that little PCV flex hose off. Wow, that's really on there tight, ain't it? Okay, just got to get it opened up enough to slide the choke off so the carb is free. Okay, that ain't working. I'm not supposed to be this tight. Not in the damn least. Okay. There we go. Just hang that down there. Slide that out. And then we also have to pop off the throttle. And then what I like to do is I'll run the cart just for a minute there and pump the fuel back into the tank just to make sure the pump is actually pumping, which it is. Slide this right off of there. You can see carburetor's removed. And it's dirty and overflowing, so try some of it out. There we go. Gotta give it a crack here. Oh yeah. So let me see if I could drain the liquid off. Okay. See that shit in the bottom there? That will cause some issues. Rust. Looks like there's some dirt. Yeah. Chunks of rust. Probably plugged up good. Let's get her apart and give her a cleaning. EZGO carbs are a little bit of a bitch to get apart. Because you have to get the pin out because it's a press fit. They don't always come out easy. Though I have to say I've never had this much trouble getting one out before. Okay, there's the pin. Oh, this carb's broke. There's the float. All kinds of dirt in here. There's a float valve. There we go. Got lucky. Oof, that's dirty. A little bit varnished in here for sure. This one's not dirty enough to parts wash, so that's why it's not in the parts washer. Okay. Yep. It had a bunch of varnish in it. For sure. There's not a lot to these carbs. Really. A lot of varnish all over it though. Like it's dripping off yellow. That's before, when it runs clear is when I know it's good. Yeah. And it's not the color of my gloves either. It's Definitely the varnished gas. Okay. Let's just clean this off. Isolator. Gasket's good. Airbox gasket's good. Gaskets on this are good. Better than most. This is going to eventually need a carburetor. It's just wore out. Before we put the airbox completely back together and close it up, we're going to try to run it. Okay. Should fire up now. so it's cleaner. Okay, job done. On to the next one.